They touch me, it's consequences that come with that.
I call you next. Hey, Lee, they try to steal our shit.
I feel like a lot of people took away the negative from that.
That people out here lying is trademark, and I own the trademarks, and it's public record.
Like, ain't nobody gotta lie about, bro.
Pull up with 20 niggas with ski masks.
Like, super hating. Like,
Ain't nobody trying to hear you, not no street nigga.
But she ain't never paid for not one of my
I'm not finna die for this shit.
I'm trying to get out.
They died the first thing they say is,
for this shit.
man, he had potential to
I ain't never
grow up.
touched none of y'all. I ain't never did. I don't owe y'all niggas shit. I don't owe y'all niggas shit.
She said, I killed a boy. I'm going to prison.
You can out-internet me, but you can't out-business me and out-grind me.
We are here on another episode of Address It. I got brother Ken Foxworth here with me, city council candidate for this year's election. He's running Ward 7, correct?
Correct. Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself a little bit? I know Ken Foxworth, but I know you got many names. I know I see the People's Champ. You know, how we call you? What you go by?
Call me by Ken.
Okay.
I think the key thing is that the reason why people call me the People Champ is, as you already know, I've been around for 40 years, and the other thing is that I have created programs that changed a lot of, I say, African American sisters and brothers' lives. And now it comes to the point where they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and man, it just blow me away. That, you know, I see people who that I used to teach and everything else, they're doctors, lawyers, superintendents. Man, it just makes me feel real good. So from that, I put some seeds in there, and next thing you know, it become flowers and roses.
I mean, I always love when I can recognize somebody that ends up running for candidacy, you know, like you able to know that you've seen them in the community before they was political, sometimes
Correct.
you meet people on their race, you know, so it's always good when you're able to see somebody outside of this, outside of the cameras, outside of the, you know.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that's so important, is because you want somebody who's been in the trenches, that's been there, who's done all the work. I mean, yes, when I first started, I recognized the DNC. And then after that, the DNC got me to a point where I got involved with the DFL, Democratic Former Labor Party. And then next thing you know, I realized that, hey, I saw some things when I was just in the DNC with my dad, because we saw some, presidents, people, McGovern, and I was shocked. But then next thing you know, one of the reasons why I came to Minnesota was Vice President Humphrey. He's from Minnesota. So I thought that if he was in Minnesota and he was dealing with civil rights, I'm thinking, oh man, this is a great place to come. And there was a Governor Anderson, he was on the Newsweek, and it said Gold Country. So I said around about 42 scholarships around the United States to play football. And I wanted to play against the Big Ten, as for Ohio State, Michigan State. And I saw that we was getting ready to play UCLA and USC. And I chose the University of Minnesota. And there was this dude, man, that looked like somebody from the outer space. He had these pointed ears and stuff. I'm like, man, who's recruiting me from Minnesota like that? And he was recruiting me hard. And next thing you know, I realized it was Tony Dungy. And so with that, it was just a fantastic time. And 2 days ago, we played against Michigan. And from that, when I was playing in 1977, I was a sophomore, and I started that game. I did 2 block passes, an interception, and a fumble, and about 13 tackles. Yeah, and we won that game 16-0.
You said they recruited you, so where they recruit you from?
St. Louis, Missouri, University City, Missouri. And that is a suburb of St. Louis.
That's where you were born and raised?
I was born in St. Louis.
Okay.
And then from that, I was the first family, my family was the first to migrate to the suburb. And I experienced some stuff that was kind of messed up to me, when I was growing, because I didn't know. I was like in the 2nd grade. And so we was the first, we got there in 1963. And so it was our first time doing Halloween. And we thinking that, my mom got the best, Halloween costume. I was a clown, and then my brother was a cowboy and everything else. And we thinking, man, we had these big old bags because we thought we were just going to end. And we saw all these lights coming, because it got kind of dark. And so once we stepped out, next thing you know, we saw all these lights just start to turn out. because they didn't want us there. And it was kind of sad, to me. And then that's when you hear that white flight. That's why he went all the way to the suburbs. And it got to me a part where I had to realize that, hey, yeah, I'm a black man in America. I'm a black boy in America, and this is what I have to stand for. I have to stand up for our rights. And I saw my mother, who gave her life and her energy, in fighting to just get black folks to be teachers at our junior high school, elementary school in Youth City. And she almost went to jail for that. So politics has been in my blood for a little bit, but I just didn't want to get into the game. I wanted other people to do that, and I wanted to be in a position of showing them how to do that.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to get to. Why now? Why are you running? The big question. I want you to tell me about the moment you decided to run like that. I know everybody has that moment where they're like, man, I'm sick of this. I'm best fit. What was that like for you?
Man, that's a good question. I was a superdelegate, deputy chair of the Black Caucus. There's some things that I wanted to do, and that was to be in a position of being the first to have a first black president, and that's Barack. If you go and see the speech where they said this is how Barack became president, you will see me in Boston in back of him with a Paul Wellstone shirt saying this is what it is. So once he became president, I faded back. I wanted to be in a position of making sure that people of color would come and get out to vote, especially when it comes down to African American men and women. My problem is that the sad part is how can you be a man when you've never seen a man? We have to be in a position, as for older people like myself, we have to be in a position of showing these young men to be men. We make the assumption that they know, but they don't. So when the time came for me to run, my car had been vandalized 3 times downtown. It got to a point where I saw trash all over the place. I saw people getting mugged and just talking. And if somebody was not giving them any kind of money, next thing you know, they was cussing them out left and right. It was like, this is crazy. And I start seeing stores like the Rack and Marshall closing up because people were stealing left and right. It's time to stand up. This is something that this lady used to tell me. It said, sometimes you got to stand up, get up, pray up, hope up, think up. And if you can't do all of that, it's about time to shut up. And so for me, it was time for people to shut up, to get people to point and say, look, if it's going to be, why not me? So I started standing up and I started saying, this is what I was going to do, because I'm not perfect. But that's what we need to have, people like myself who's not perfect. I can't sometimes talk right. Shoot, sometimes I talk Ebonics. Sometimes I talk Gullah. Sometimes I talk Geechee. Sometimes I talk slang. But the thing is that I can relate to the people that's in the hood. And that's what we need.
So you touched about it on a little bit. Just what do you feel makes you qualified for this position? I'm
overqualified. With the experience that I have, I mean, I've been on the executive team for the DFL for almost 12, 14 years. Sure, I've been on the DNC as a chair for the Central, when it comes down to African Americans, for the Central States. Then from there, I became the deputy chair of the whole Black Caucus. I'm overqualified. Sure, I got my master's degree in urban regional studies as a city planner. I did my internship in the city planning department. Next thing you know, I worked in the Minneapolis Public Schools. I worked in the Minneapolis Park and Recreation. And then after that, sure, I came around and worked with the University of Minnesota as an adjunct professor and dealing with the urban studies at the University of Minnesota Duluth campus. And what I started doing is bringing these kids all the way from Duluth so they can see exactly what was going on in St. Paul and Minneapolis. So yeah, I'm overqualified.
I mean, what makes you, among your constituents, what makes you the best candidate?
Well, all of them have jewels. They got their things. I mean, you got folks who deal with real estate. You got folks who deal with the environment. But mine is dealing with the people. That's what we're trying to do. Shoot, we really ain't divided. Hell, we got to be connected. The only way that we can connect is to communicate with each other. And when you start to communicate with each other, then you won't be in a position where we're at right now. We got two things that's killing us right now: fear and hatred. We're afraid of each other because we don't know each other. We're afraid, and we're in a position where we feel mean and cruel because we don't understand how to relate to another generation.
Like common citizens, you saying?
Yes, yes. So, man, I mean, hey, there's things that I look at that in your generation, y'all cool with. Sure, man. I mean, I'm not cool with y'all sagging these pants down. That ain't cool for me. But the thing is
I
that
ain't cool with that either.
I ain't cool with it. Thank you, man. Sure. It's like, sure, can you relate to that? And how can you tell this man or this boy to put his pants down when your pants is down in the same way? You got to change them and show them how powerful they are and letting them know that, hey, this is a fade, but this is something that you need to understand, that sooner or later you got to pull your pants up and be the man that God gave you the right to be. Shoot, just quit thinking that you can't when you know that you can. And that means that you got to create mentors, and you got to find people who want to do the things that's hard enough to make you stand up to be the man or the woman that you're supposed to be.
So how long have you been living in Ward 7?
I lived there for about 7 years, in 430 Oak Grove Apartments. This is my third year living in the ward where I'm at, downtown Minneapolis, at Suline Apartment. I left for a year because I wanted to take care of my mom that was living in St. Louis when we had the virus. And so once that came, then from that, I came on back and I've been here ever since.
I see, this will follow you a little bit. Public safety is like at the forefront of what you're running on, basically?
It's the only thing. I mean, everything that you deal with is dealing with safety.
What does safety look like? What are your idea of public safety that needs improvement?
Oh, first of all, the drugs. I mean, do you know what blue is?
Yeah.
Blue? What is it? Yeah, blue.
Fentanyl?
Yeah, thank you. That's all over the place. Do the people know exactly what blue is really killing our kids? And not just killing black kids, it's killing everybody. So from that, you got a light rail right now that's people walking like zombies between all the way from 12 o'clock all the way into about now. Sure, you go to one of those stations, you seeing them bend over. And right now, it's like to a point, nobody's not talking about it. Not nobody. They got to talk about it. Because from that, those light rails, those buses and everything else, those are veins that comes to Minneapolis. Minneapolis is the heart and soul of our state. If you clog that up, what's going to happen? You're going to have a heart attack or you're going to have a stroke. So from that, we got to clean that up. The other thing, too, is that, hey, we got to be in a position of making sure, because if you look at the strip of Nicollet, the mall, tell me any resale stores at. Where they at? Only thing you got is Target, and then from that, you got Walgreens. Marshall's closed. Shoot, Northrop Rack, that's closed. We got to bring that back together again. And then from that, bring businesses back, small businesses and business, because from that, you're losing, we're losing. And the only thing that you got here, what you got that brings people together, shoot, it's the sports and entertainment. We have to be in a position of bringing back that business that will say that they would love to be back to Minnesota, because it's one of the best places they ever had. We got to get in the position where it's not just a police issue. It's a people issue that's saying enough is enough. They got to fight back. And when they start saying they have to fight back, then shoot, then we're ready to do something. So we don't need to point, because every time we pointing, you already know 3 other fingers that's pointing at you back. It's a we thing. instead of a me thing.
I mean, so as far as like ideas, like practical stuff, like what ideas do you have to address these issues?
Oh, yeah, okay. Like for the fentanyl, for the blues, we need to be in a position of not just looking at the police to give you those issues. We need to be in a position of recruiting and find people of social workers that can understand that and get some people, because I was with, I say about 13 older men who was drug addicts, who went to jail. They need to be in a position of talking to these kids. They need to be in a position of talking all of that stuff and telling them exactly what they had to go through. So they can be in a position of saying, well, hey, we got some places that you can go to. We need to put money back into that. The other thing too is that when it comes down to the youth programs, the only thing we have is 30-day treatment, and that's it. We got to bring that back. I can't believe that St. Joseph is closed. That don't make no sense. But you need to take the environment that you had with St. Joe's, Totem Town, all of that stuff that is closed, and put them outside of the environment, outside of Hennepin County, so they can see something totally different than what they see now. That they can be in a position that can be who they are at that time in there, so they can change the way that they think. My program that I had, as you already know, the ACE program, we did something like that. We took them out for 3 days. We showed them how to get up at 3:30 in the morning and run 2 to 3 miles. Showed them there's some things outside. Then when it was the day 3 that was over with.
Was that the program my pops was in?
That's right. They didn't want to go in. They didn't want to come.
He said you might have a story to share with me about that.
Thank you. So, hey, man, you got that. You got the your pop was in the NYSP program. And so what I did with him is that he was acting up. Yeah. So, but what I did, I put him in the corner and stuff, man, and had him to make speeches. Sure. I mean, like, for example, there was a speech he's saying, it goes like this. I choose not to be a common man. Me is my right to be uncommon if I can. I choose the calculated risk to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. It is my heritage to stand up proud and unafraid and say to this world, this is what I've done. And so what I had them to do, to say that speech, I had them to be on a corner and yell it over and over again. So it becomes subconscious. And so then from that, they start to believe in what those words mean. Then they start to grow. So those are the things that we need to start doing with our kids, because now you got these kids stealing, because there's some issues that's there in the community that we need to stop. And we need to change the paradigm. I'll give you an example. People don't want to talk about it, but you got 34-year-old, 36-year-old women who are great-grandmothers now. You know it too. So we have to change the way that they think about who they are and stop this madness and start being in a position of working not with kids in high school, but to start to work with the kids in elementary and especially middle school. And when we do something like that, that's when it's changed. So that's two of the things that we're dealing with. One is the drugs. Then the other thing that we're dealing with is our youth. So they won't be in a position of carjacking and stealing and going up there shooting up for no reason. There's no reason anyway for shooting. Just don't make no sense. And then the last thing is making sure that they got some place that they can say that it's their own. So public housing. But you got to be in a position of making sure that that public housing is what? Safe.
Well, I know in your position, though, you can't make everybody happy, though. So somebody's going to feel like, that they, not being heard or anything like that. How do you take criticism? How do you take people being upset with you, like in the media?
Sure, man, hey. That's the hardest thing because, hey, I had to learn how to get tough skin. I mean, people, I have done a lot. But, you want folks to appreciate the stuff that you have done because it's hard. But the key thing that you got to understand, for me, that I had to understand, is I'm doing this for the people. That's all I can do. I cannot change everybody. Shoot, I had to understand this, and I had to be real with it. I had to understand that 95% of people love what you want to do. They love it. But that 5%, I don't care what you do, they can't stand you. They don't want to stand that big. But you concentrate on the 5%, but not concentrating on the 95. Mm-hmm. I had to learn how to concentrate on the 95. And once I learned how to concentrate on the 95, then I understand exactly what my role was.
As far as like public safety again, back to like Minneapolis Police Department, what is your thoughts around, this people that want them to be defunded or less funded? Then there's those that say they need to be funded more. What's your thoughts around, just the police department, the engagement with the communities and going forward?
Like I said, hey, my thing is that it's crazy to defund the police. It don't make sense to me. Matter of fact, you need to enhance the police, but in different ways. And my thing is that, hey, yes, we need to get back to 725 police officers that's going to be on the ground. But the other thing is that we need to figure out how to grow our own police department so they can understand the communities and everything else that we have. Give you an example. Look at OA. Mm-hmm. You've been with him ever since you was young. Yeah. You saw exactly what he did. You saw what his father did. You saw what his sister is doing right now. Mm-hmm. So you calling them bad cops? No. You calling them great cops because they're doing exactly what they need to do. And that is enhancing what? The community. And so from that, that's what he's doing. He's planting seeds to getting other folks to be in a position of saying, what? Being a cop is not a bad job. And it's not. My older brother who just died 2 years ago, he was a cop in Houston. And from that, I saw exactly what he did to his community. He gave back. When somebody called late at night, they already knew that my brother was going to be there for them. And so when he passed, it was just like he was a political officer. I mean, tons of folks came to his funeral because he cared. That's the stuff that we're trying to do with these policemen. Give them an area where they can be trained, they can be taught to say, hey, being in this profession is one of the best professions that you can be in. The same thing being a fireman. Same thing in dealing with a social worker. Same thing doing that 911 is crucial. We got to be in a position of learning how to grow our own so they can understand and relate to our community because they've been there.
I heard a suggestion about increasing the pay. They say sometimes the pay is too close. Teachers and officers, the salaries sometimes are too close for the work that it needs. What do you think? Does the pay need to be increased for officers?
Shoot, that pay needs to be increasing everything right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why you got these unions striking. To get to a point where they feel good about being an officer, pay is going to be, but it's not about the pay, man. You know what it's about? It's about benefits. Shoot, if somebody's going to tell you that I'm going to give you a home and this home is going to be maybe half or a fourth lower than what it was on the market, and then from that, you got some kind of program that can hook you up that you don't have to have a big old down payment on that. That's one. Then from that, you got a family, your medical, and all of that stuff, your dental, your visual, all of that stuff, your insurance is taken care of. So from that, shoot, I will look not just at the paper as for the money, I'm going to be looking at the benefits of what the benefits is going to be doing for my family.
You talk about people, the hardest thing is to get people to work together. It's the fear, the hatred is keeping people apart. What do you envision bringing to change that? Because the different department agencies and stuff that need to work together, all the moving parts that, they need to collectively help do better.
And that's what's so cool about it. I was at this summit for the 3rd precinct, and they brought all the police officers and all of that stuff. It was fantastic, but they forgot to have one person there. They needed to have the police chief of the University of Minnesota. Because from that, you got people going across the river and the other side and everything else. All of them need to meet up like once a month to talk about different strategies. The other thing too is that should have a summit to different areas, especially in 7th, to be in a position of letting people know what's going on. It's nice to have it over there in the women's club, but we need to have that at Lauren Park. We need to be in a position of making sure that those folks that's in those apartments on Nicollet, that they know darn well that they care. See, there's 3 things that I say all the time. I mean, one is reach, greet, and teach. But the other thing that we try to do is to get them to a point where they understand that we will listen, that we care. And the last thing is that what we want them to do is to realize that they matter. And if you put all of those things together, they will show up. Because now they don't think that they don't care. They know that you matter, and they know that they can feel safe with Ken Foxworth.
So I mean, okay, like, if elected, I know it's a lot to take care of, but like, could you like, give something that's like priority short-term goals, and then like long-term goals? Like, what's some things that needs to be addressed immediately if you get into office?
Oh, it's safety, especially downtown. I would try to be in a position of changing the rules when it comes down to dealing with no trespassing. I mean, they cancel that. I would like to bring that back in. The other thing too is that I would like to make a proposal, and this is the first time I'm saying this. I would like to have over about $111 million, to deal with the police, deal with, I say, diversity when it comes down to working with our kids and bringing them to enhance them, to give them programs. And then the other thing too is working with the Park and Recreation Department, getting them to a point where, just like what St. Paul did, is to rebuild those areas that needs to be rebuilt the most. And that's, North, Lowen, say PB, all of those parks that needs a little bit more buildings so they can create revenue. Like if you, for example, you get Parade Stadium. They got a great hockey building. I think they got 2. So why not enhance that and have close to 4 to maybe 6, I say, basketball courts inside? Because now you can do tournaments around the whole metropolitan area, because it's big enough that you can create revenue. But the other thing is it's big enough to be in a position where people will stay there with different classrooms with that too. You bringing people inside of the game, and you can have classes and everything else to start doing that. It's perfect. The other thing too is making sure that we got money for this. I mean, just remember that license, when it comes down to liquor license that they have, they already built and already paid for a stadium with that. So why not take 5% or maybe even 3% and use that? The other thing too is that you see those plastic bags that they always be charging for about 3 cents. Why not take some of that money and say, well, hey, it's not 3 cents that we're gonna ask. We're gonna put 5 cents, so it comes out to 8 cents. Or maybe we'll put 7 cents in there, so it comes out to be 10 cents. And the only thing you gotta do is say this money is going for what? Safety. And if you got that, then you got money coming in that you already have, that you don't have to ask. And then from that, you can get different businesses to get into the game. Because now you realize that, hey, you're looking at safety. Just remember, El-Amin, just remember you do this. You got a phone bill, right?
Yeah.
And every time you look at that bill, you like, damn, this $200? Where is this going from? And then once you look and you saying these, look, 55 cents, you don't even know what it is. Manage it by management, 55 cents. But you pay it anyway. So from that, this receipt is going to tell you that this is going to be part of safety that you're going to take care of. And I guarantee you, people are going to use that because they already know that that money is going to the right hand to help be safe in our community. So I'm looking at how to pay for it. You asked me about what kind of programs. I have to throw that out to you. I want to be in a position that I'm already thinking what I'm going to do because this is what I have to do. The other thing too is making sure that Nicollet and the Hennepin County, not Hennepin County, but Hennepin, that area is going to be safe. Because I got to bring in more retail. I got to bring in more arts inside of those areas because that's where our money is going to be and that's where our business is going to be because once they say that it's safe, people will come back to the city.
A lot of people feel like politicians as a whole, what ways can we look to keep you guys accountable, you know, for what you say you're going to do when people are in office? Just the transparency of the decisions that are made, you know, what do you envision to do that helps the community with that trust?
What I do, and I still do it, I do it now. I do town halls. I do town hall meetings. I come to them so I can make sure that they know if they have a question, they have an answer. I'm a phone way away. I'm a single man. Shoot, this is what I do. I mean, you know, it is a 24-hour job. But you know, my game is making sure that people know what I say, and I want to tell the truth. The most important thing that I know this coming up winter, that's going to be a crucial thing, is potholes. It's going to come. And my thing is making sure that I can talk about that before we even start and how we can make that work. Town hall meetings is important. The other thing that I'm going to use is doing, just like you doing the Topcats, I would like to have one of those things so I can talk to them at an area where they can see us talking about different things that we can do in our ward. So for example, if they're talking about, I say, XL, why not get the president of XL? Because he lives with us, he lives in that community. Let's talk about those issues and have a podcast in dealing with those issues. So I'm looking at grassroots, sure, I'm looking at town hall, podcast, and social media.
What type of stuff do you do intentionally, you know, as a person when you get into office to make sure you stay boots on the ground, to make sure you stand and hearing, you know, the real issues of the common person? What do you do? What do you plan to do?
Well, I'm doing that now. I mean, the thing is that I'm not going to the top. I go to the bottom. I go to the people that's already doing the work right now. I'll give you an example. I got a good friend of mine who was a teammate. His name is Roy Artis, who's a social worker for Hennepin County. And so from that, I go where he went. I go to those areas where he's saying, this is the worst area. And so I'm still going to be with him. The other thing is working with the police department, not just the police department for Minneapolis, but the park board, the Metro, the University of Minnesota, so I can hear that one-on-one. The other thing, too, that I want to do is, I forgot the name of that thing, were those people wearing that green shirt and everything else that be cleaning, you know, the streets. I work with them over and over again because I want to see what they are. And I ask questions over and over again. What can I do to be better? What is it that I can make sure that this area will be safe? That's what I'll be doing, because I'm doing it in a way now, but I can just talk about it. I want to be in a position of doing it while I'm active, if when that time comes, that I can make something and make a difference.
Do you believe like the community should know about things like before they're decided on? A lot of times people feel like their community input is asked after things are already in place, you know, after it's too far gone to shut it down, even if they did want to shut it down.
I think the saddest part is that, you know, especially minority communities, they're not being touched. And so that's the area that I'll be concentrating even more to get them to be involved, because they feel like their vote don't matter. And my goal is to make sure that they understand that it does matter when you vote. The other thing is that it does matter when you come to these meetings. It does matter to you in the position of being a participant, not a person who just points the fingers.
So I mean, can you just explain for the people that don't know What's the full responsibilities of a city council member? Like, what can we blame or not blame on you guys?
I mean, you know, right now, since there's a strong mayor system, so the strong mayor is one, the mayor who's got control. The other thing is that what we have is a new thing in dealing with different policies that we have to go through. And so what I'm looking at is, one, policies in dealing with potholes, policies in dealing with housing, policies in dealing with new zoning codes and all of that stuff. Those are the things that a city council member have to deal with. Being in a position of knowing exactly when the trash and when the trash is due and everything else, that. The other part is the safety when inside of the area of the ward. Got to understand that too. So all of those things that I just said, that's the responsibility of the new city council.
I want to go back just a little bit to law enforcement. You say you want to get it back up to that 725 number, I think?
Correct.
What is the goal to get it to that, though? Like, what is, with the traumas and everything that's been going on with police and citizens, the reputation, what's your thoughts? Is it realistic to think that it could get back to that?
Oh, yes, it is. I mean, the key thing is getting them to a point where they understand that they can, instead of the word that they can't. We can get back to anything that we want to. It's just how much do you want to pay a price to do it? Like I said, that grow your own, it might take time, but you're going to have people who want to be a part of a police officer, who want to be a part of being a fireman or a firewoman. I mean, it's the part that you want them to understand that they can, instead of the word that they can't.
Do you ever think that it needs a name change?
To what?
I mean, I don't know what name, but sometimes when you've given out a great deal of trauma, the reputation, sometimes people can't see themselves working for under the same name or under the same entity that has caused so many people harm or their loved ones. So, I mean, do you think that a name change could be, beneficial to, I'm not working for the Minneapolis Police Department anymore. I'm working for the Peace Group or, these different groups that are popping up.
No, because I think that those peace groups, 21 Days of Peace, social worker, they can call them a name, but the last resort, you gonna call it what? Police. And that's the way it should be, man. Because my thing is that the hardest thing for a policeman is dealing with a domestic assault. I mean, because it's the hardest. So why not have that in-between person who's a social worker who know how to deprogram that and get it to a point where they can get it out there? Yeah, you call them whatever you want. But the background, the end resorts, police.
So you need all of it?
You need all of it.
All of it, okay. What's your thoughts about mental health? Mental health is huge right now. What do you see mental health being, just what's your thoughts on that contributing to safety, public safety, people's mental health being better?
It's not even that. I mean, the thing that they need to do is be housed, man. In 1981, that's when Reagan came in. He cut all of that stuff out, man. He cut all of the housing for mental health. And so from that, you got people ever since, man. The only way that they can feel comfortable and everything else is to go to prison or go to jail because they didn't have a place to stay. But we need to be in a position that is bringing back some of those clinics or those homes for mental development, mental ill people. Then from that, if you do have trauma, we have people who can work with you, who can deal with that. My thing is that, hey, this can't all be safe if everybody start trusting and working together as a team. When you see us working and have it in one area, if we do build a complex, and it's going to be in a position where you have folks who's got mental illness, there should be a lower area in that area where you have folks, when they have that they can go 24 hours, that they can walk in that area and have somebody talking about the problems that they're facing right now.
I mean, if you just would like to bring up anything, you know, any topics, anything that I haven't touched on, what would you like the people to know about you? Where can they find you?
People gotta understand that, hey, you know, I got a young man that I trust. His name is Will Moore. He's been pushing the buttons on me. Sometimes I get ticked off at him, just like anybody else. It's almost like a son. But the key thing is that you gotta understand that he's been working. This is his game plan. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to run, because he needed to see what a man is. And I want to be in a position of making sure that sometimes we just got to stand up. And we got to stand up for the right thing. Why not stand up for your community? Why not be in a position, not being a blame and always pointing fingers? It's time for us to stand up. It's time for us to fight back. And it's time for us to be in a position of making ourselves looking real, instead of being in the position of just being chill. We have to do this. And the only way that we can do this is what I just said. Stand what? Stand up.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on, I think it's fairly new, the ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
What is that about, and what's your thoughts on that? What should the people know about ranked choice voting?
I think the ranked choice voting is one of the best things that happen right now in local government right now. People got to understand one thing, and one thing only. We got to vote. Local government right now, people don't vote, especially people of color. We got to understand the most powerful thing that you can do right now is to vote in local government. Ranked choice voting gives you that access. That because now it's not in a position where you have the DFL and the Republican Party. Now you have a choice to do what you got to do. You can vote number 1, you can vote number 2, you can vote number 3, and then from that, if the vote is not over 60%, from that, 50%. If it's not over that, they bring the second choice in. So with that, it opens so many doors. That's the reason why I'm still in the game. Because from that, it gives you a different access to get you to a point that you can instead of you can't. Local government, and when it comes down to ranked choice voting, is one of the best things for us. But the key thing, El-Amin, is to be in a position where you understand that all of this stuff is in your hands. Shoot. Everything that we say is in your hands. Like, for example, if we vote, it'll be easy. Because from that, people of color don't vote, get them out to vote, it's a game changer. Let me tell you this story. There was this dude who, there's 2 boys that was always thought that they was always smarter than the wise man. And so next thing you know, they took a wise man and they start trying to figure out solutions to mess him up. And so the 2 boys went to the restaurant. And when they went to the restaurant, they saw this bird in the cage. And one of the boys said, "Oh, I got an idea." And so next thing you know, he took the great bird out of the cage and he said, "Look, if the wise man says that the bird is dead, I'm going to crush it. And if the wise man says that the bird if the wise man say the bird is alive, I'm gonna crush it. And if the wise man said he's dead, I'm gonna set it free." And they say, "Okay, fine." They went up to the hill and they knocked on the door to the wise man. And the wise man says, "Well, let me tell you." He said, "I got this bird in my hand. Tell me exactly what you think. And is this bird is dead or is the bird is alive?" And the wise man says, "Son, let me just tell you, the bird is in your hands. All of the stuff that you've been saying about that is in these people's hands. The opportunities for them to change the way that they think is in their hands. When it comes down to ranked voting, it's the most important thing. The only thing they have to do is just look it up. They can see how important it is It's in your hands. The other problem that you have is that you got people of color who don't think that their vote matter. It does matter. But you know what? It's in his hands. Everything that we are trying to say is your choice. You matter. We listen and we care. All of that stuff is in your hands. And the only thing you got to do is one thing: vote.
Well, lastly, can you explain the Restore Your Vote as well as the Artist Protection Act? Can you explain what that is?
I think when it comes down to the artists, I think there's some bad things and there's some good things with it. And I got to do a study on it because, there's some things like, for example, what happened with Tupac. They finally got the young man who shot him. Mm-hmm. That's correct. But, there's some other verses that people are looking at that's saying, well, hey, since they did these verses, there's some folks who did shoot some folks and everything else and all that, and they went to jail. Yeah, that's fine. But that's a bunch of folks. But you got artists who just do art, and that's just about it. And some of the stuff that they say, it's not even, not real. It's fantasy. It's just like some of these folks, man, who got these big old jewelry and these cars, knowing that they broke. We don't know that, but that vision of them thinking that everybody who's doing this got money, they don't. What we want to do is be in a position of knowing exactly what it is with the RICO Act, and we want them to understand exactly about these artists and making sure that their art is still art. And so that's what we're looking at right now.
So what you're looking at, making it to where they cannot?
Well, I want to be in a position of just doing a study because nobody haven't done that before. Uh-huh. And I want to be in a position of making sure that if that study is cool, then I'll do some, I'll bring in some folks to make sure that this will stay to a point where the artists get exactly what they need, a clear art. But when it comes down to this gang banging and all of this other stuff, because words change and words hurt. And sometimes word is real. We got to be in a position of making a balance off of it.
So right now, as is, what does it stand right now? You able to use your words for like? In some ways, I really don't understand it, and that's why I want to be in a position of learning a little bit more about it. Restore your vote. The people that are able to, the rights being restored. Just explaining that a little bit so we know for the ones that don't know.
What's so cool about this is that, you got folks who had felonies who never thought that they could vote. And thanks to Keith Ellison, our Attorney General, who's been doing this for years before he became a U.S. Congressman, he got to a point where he was saying this is what he wants to do. But now it's law. And I think that this is a key component for us to be in a position of getting these felonies to understand that you have the right, and now you can vote.
For sure, it ain't no more excuses, man, for felons.
It's in your what?
It's in your hands. It's in your hands, for sure. I appreciate you though. I appreciate you coming out, and a lot of people don't show up. I appreciate you showing up, being able to be accessible, answering questions. So that's big time for me, and I appreciate you supporting the platform.
Well, El-Amin, the next time you come and you ask me to come, and tell me put a suit on or something, man. You got me all twisted and stuff.
Nah, man, I thought you knew, but it's all good. Showing up is what's important.
All right, well, man.
Appreciate
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think the law enforcement have to be mindful that they're not accidentally killing and hitting pedestrians when they're pursuing somebody else, right? That doesn't create safety. And so I think the point is that we've got to make everything safer, right? That person who's speeding and who's fleeing from the police, sure, they're at fault, right? But we have a responsibility as public officials, as police officers, as firefighters, to not harm the public while we're trying to do our jobs, right?
Wasn't there a no chase policy or?
You know, the no chase policy is something that the chief would really have to discuss in detail. But here's what I know about the no chase policy is that, you know, it used to be that you could just be pursuing people all the time. Now there's certain limitations so that we can have less pursuits because so many people were getting hit during these pursuits. And it's much easier just to get the license plate, let that person go, ID them, let them go. If they're no longer being chased, 9 times out of 10, they are going to eventually slow down when they realize they're not being chased. And if we have their identity and we have their license plate, we can get that person later, and it's safer to the community, it's safer to all that kind of stuff.
If they touch me, it's consequences that come with that.
I call you next. Hey, Malik, they trying to steal our
I
shit.
feel like a lot of people took away the negative from that.
That people out here lying is trademark, and I own the trademarks, and it's public record.
Like, ain't nobody got to lie about.
Bro, pull up with 20 niggas with ski masks.
Like super hating. Like
Ain't nobody trying to hear you, not no street nigga.
But
she ain't never paid for not one of my
I'm not finna die for this shit.
trying to get out.
They died the first thing they say is,
For this shit.
man, he had potential
I
to
ain't never
grow up.
touched none of y'all. I ain't never did. I don't owe y'all niggas shit. I don't owe y'all niggas shit.
She said, I killed a boy, I'm going to prison.
You can out-internet me, but you can't out-business me and out-grind me.